This is Leisha Holmes, and I'm your host on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast. And I'm so excited to finally meet today. We almost nearly met a few years ago. We've just discovered offline. Alex McCann, who might be well recognised if you're joining us over on LinkedIn. He is a social media trainer at Altrincham HQ, and he's also social media speaker and blogger. Welcome to today, Alex. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. Thanks for having us. I always love these opportunities to get to speak to new people.
Absolutely. And, you know, a fellow Mancunian by the looks of it. Obviously, you're north. We know you're south. I'm north Manchester. South. You're south to me. But it's really lovely because what I love about this community that if you're listening now is that we have literally got people all around the world. But when I interview somebody from my hometown in Manchester, it's just brilliant. Although Altringham's Cheshire, darling. So for those who are not yet familiar with who you do and what you do, who you are and what you do, what do you actually do? Talk to a little bit about Altrincham HQ.
Yeah, I've just done some posts about it recently, and I've had a 24-year marketing career. I know.
Wow. Hopefully, you don't look it. You don't look it.
And that's why I've been sort of emphasising how long I've been in it. I mean, I use the phrase a highly experienced marketer. So I've been running a social media company since 2009. Wow. Which, if you think 2009, not a lot of people were doing social media. But before that, I used to be a journalist and run an events company. So my background actually came from rock and roll to marketing, and I love what I do. So my life is spending helping people improve their social media marketing. That can literally be, we've been working with a travel business earlier today. We're working with a tea room next week. We're working with a home interiors company in between that.
Wow.
We've worked with recruiters, obviously. We work with all different types of businesses, which means every day is different. But we basically, our mission is to turn businesses' social media from average to great.
I love it. And what I like about that, actually, is that because you're working across a number of different industries, you're getting very different viewpoints. And then not that you're going to plagiarize this, but actually you can create this best practice. So if, you see that one particular industry is doing brilliant things with one particular social media, you think, well, actually, so that's worked really well in car sales. That could work really well in insurance or whatever. Maybe they're bad examples, but you're getting a really interesting objective perspective of the broad economy.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, a lot of my inspiration comes from fitness people. I'm into my running, I'm into going to the gym, and I'll see like a fitness person do something that's really motivational and think if I just change two things, I can do that as a marketing spin on that. And it's just, it's so useful to not think as just I'm a recruiter. Yeah. It's thinking like I'm a marketer, I'm a media company. How can I communicate in the best way possible? And sometimes the best people might not be in your industry.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. There's a guy on Instagram, and I hope I get this right. I think he's called the Fitness Trainer, and he's the food one. He's the one that he's very droll and he's always very sad-faced, and he comes along, and I think he's absolutely hilarious. And I share no other fitness people, but I share him because he just talks about the nonsense around calories and punishing your body. But anyway, that's a total aside. So I'm very interested, and I like the fact that you have sort of positioned this as a moment in time. 2009, let's think we were coming out of the recession, and if you're listening to this and you are quite new to recruitment, which a lot of our audience are, it's not dissimilar to what could have happened in COVID, but didn't because of furlough and the bounce back scheme. So businesses didn't crash and burn, but we are seeing the hangover of that now, certainly within certain markets like tech, like blue collar sectors where, the people's pockets are being squeezed as business owners, cost of living and Brexit. There's lots of different factors. And, actually the market is in a bit of turmoil really, but we weren't really, I was on LinkedIn in 2009. If I think back, Facebook was massive. It was in its growth phase in 2009. I don't think Instagram existed. You didn't have to.
No, it was literally for me. I was in the music industry when I first started, so I wasn't even using LinkedIn then. I was probably LinkedIn 2010, 11-ish. So I was only Facebook and Twitter in those days.
Twitter. You probably still have. I mean, I'm trying to think of the other ones, but I can't. So actually, and that's what I love about this conversation, that we're going to maybe sort of talk through how things are changing and adapting and where you see things going. So let's stick to LinkedIn, because reality is that's where all recruiters live, on LinkedIn. Regardless of your sector, that's where you are. And I think I can't even imagine a sector that isn't on LinkedIn now. So we're recording this in 2023, and I wonder what you think is going to happen to LinkedIn. Do you think at some point it will lose its power and actually start to decline in usage?
Well, if I'm entirely honest, I don't think it will. If you think about how long LinkedIn's been around for, and how it hasn't really got a direct competitor. It's obviously there's lots of other platforms out there, but there is no direct competitor. Every other social media platform nicks features off each other. And LinkedIn is kind of this standalone platform that just does its own thing. It's never been super sexy, but it keeps growing. And if the latest stats as of January this year, where it's got 900 million users. So I keep telling people when we're sort of doing LinkedIn training, I'm going, well, think where it's going to be in a year's time. It's going to be 1 billion users. And I do genuinely think January, February next year, 1 billion users, it'll cross that mark. And actually, in terms of its growth, if you look at how all the platforms have grown or shrunk since, say, COVID and the pandemic, LinkedIn's the one that percentage term, I think it's something like 5% quarter on quarter, 9% year on year that it's growing at. And you look at Instagram, and that's dropped slightly in the UK and across the world as well. And Facebook is kind of only seeing slight growth. TikTok is obviously going through the roof. But I think LinkedIn is in a very, very strong position.
Yeah. Now, it was a bit of a naughty question because I think I agree with you. And I can't see it diminishing in its value to particularly recruiters who are our audience, because of the fact that anyone that has a job or wants a job is on there, even if it's like in a panic mode. And I think the reality is, you know, from a feature point of view, it is insurmountably the only thing out there. Have you learned how to beat the algorithm yet? Or the algorithm that keeps changing algorithm?
You know what? I think I do okay. I've never been one of these people that's been obsessed about going viral. So there are people that are on LinkedIn that get significantly more likes than me and significantly more comments. But I think I always view social media and business as it's a business tool. I want to get results from it, and I genuinely get results from it. So I'm perfectly happy with the level of interaction I get. I'm not the other side as well. I'm not like getting no interaction. I do get quite a bit of interaction compared to some people. But I think, the algorithm, I think if I had to sum up the algorithm in a nutshell, it's ultimately be interesting, but also link it with your business objectives of what you're trying to achieve. Because you can be interesting, but still not achieve your business objectives. There's certain debates that you can put in any single day, like, what do people think about tattoos in the workplace? And it's guaranteed to get like 1,000 comments. But is that going to help you put the next person in the position? Is it going to help you get through the doors of the companies that you want to work with? Probably not. You're just going to get a lot of heated discussion on there.
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely an argument for that. And I think there's a lot of fixation, I agree with you, around, you know, whether a post is actually intended to go viral. Is it? I mean, I get comments on my posts when they're particularly personal posts, and you know, I'm sharing because I'm quite happy and open to talk about things that are going on in my personal life, and I'll get the most insane engagement. It'll be ridiculous, but what's the actual ROI on it? And I'll post something, you know, less inverted commas popular. It might only have an outreach of say 2,000 views, as opposed to, I've already had one this morning where I posted it at 7 a.m. and we're recording this at 3 p.m. It's already had about 90,000 views, which is ridiculous. But the post that might only get 2,000 views, but it's actually a business related one. It's, you know, I'm talking about maybe a candidate or a client, you know, obviously quite generic. And I actually get a candidate from it who I then place and get 10 grand for. That was actually a more valuable post.
Exactly. I mean, I use all the platforms. So I've just I did a post on Instagram stories this morning,
right,
just before I went into the previous meeting, and literally it only, I think I haven't checked the stats, but it's definitely had less than 100 views on this story. I got a booking out of it.
Yeah,
that's like literally.
I know. I used to use the example that whenever I used to talk about, because this was before COVID, but this one of my most powerful posts, I put a picture on of me at Peel Tower in Ramsbottom, and I was talking about flexible working, which was massive before COVID, by the way. Like people wanted it, and I got 2 likes, but I got 2 candidates off it that I placed. So that one post that had 2 likes earned me 20 grand, and I was a bit like, I'd rather have 10 of those posts than 2 of the posts that maybe get 100,000 likes or whatever. So no, I do agree with you. I think it's really interesting. So you are an expert across a lot of the platforms. Obviously, we've focused particularly on LinkedIn because obviously that's where all recruiters live. But I do think there's a value, and off camera we were talking around TikTok, and that's something that I've personally tried to focus on since about the end of 2022, much to the horror of my teenage daughters, because I'm not going to stand there and start doing dance moves. I don't think any recruiter will come and choose me as an expert in my field because of my moves, although they haven't necessarily seen them. But joking aside, where do you see the value of things like TikTok when it comes to content creation? And also, are we missing a trick with things like Snapchat in terms of communicating with people? What are you seeing overall?
I think overall we've seen several different things. Obviously, we've got to look at the future people of the workplace, and they are going to be using TikTok. And I think that's one of the big things that we've got to think of. But equally, I'm going into colleges and universities and telling the students how to use LinkedIn. Not just you should be using LinkedIn like the lecturers tell them, actually the specifics of how to use it. So I think LinkedIn is growing in that respect from the student perspective and the future employees. And I think also, as I said, that they're growing up with TikTok and Instagram. I would disregard Snapchat, and it is really, really hard to use in the reaching out. But I think TikTok and Instagram are definitely things that people should be looking at. As you said, particularly in terms of the content creation, you can do some really fun things. I'm using a lot of the filters. So as I said before in the intro, I've got 24 years marketing experience. On TikTok, there's a filter that makes you look like a teenager. So I'm doing lots of videos based around me being a 14-year-old, and that's when I first started studying business and marketing. And people laugh at it and they find it funny. And then I've used like a Mr. Bean filter on TikTok, and like going, you wouldn't trust Mr. Bean in your marketing, so why do you hand it to anyone with no marketing experience, no training experience, and you're just handing the keys to the people that are representing your business? And I just do this funny thing with Mr. Bean, acting awkward and getting everything wrong, and it really, really works.
I must try that one.
Yeah, I think short form content on TikTok, again, it's still early days for me. I'm still learning. There's people that are younger and prettier than me that have got significantly more followers. But I think, again, on a business context, I have got genuine businesses following me on TikTok that are engaging with my content. And I've got to have the patience, but further down the line, I will monetize that.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, isn't it? I think it's about having a strategy and ensuring that you're actually putting yourself out there, but having a unique voice to it, and not doing something that compromises. I love the thought of a teenage filter, although I'm not sure I do want to go back to those days of one eyebrow and all that, because you didn't really groom yourself in the 1980s. But joking aside, I think I think there's definitely a place for it, and I think it's about ensuring that you're not compromising what your EVP is as a business owner if you're listening to this now. And I'm so pleased you brought it up, because Gen Z and Alpha generation, they literally have been brought up on what was Musical.ly, now TikTok. My daughter's 15. I mean, she's literally been on it for 10 years because it was Musical.ly first. So the skills that you have as a Gen Zer, and obviously the Alpha when they come through, is they can then use those skills in the business that they work for. But I'm glad to hear that they're actually educating them. And I didn't know that. That's good that they're educating them about LinkedIn, because and my daughters are both on that. I'm telling all their friends to get on there as soon as they can. Build your business network as well.
Definitely. I think the thing on what we've all got to realize as business owners as well is that you know the stats more than me. I can't remember the specifics, but literally potential employees will check out the person they're going to work for before they actually get in touch with you. So how you appear, if you're appearing out of date and you're not up to date with the modern social media platforms, they might just disregard you on that basis and think you're not the sort of person we want to work with. And obviously it opens up to you to a whole new audience as well if you're using TikTok, because there will be people, as we said, you're pushing your daughter to be on LinkedIn, but there's still a huge amount of resistance. Oh, that's the old person's platform, even though it isn't actually in real terms.
That's Facebook apparently.
Yeah. I mean, the actual age as well on LinkedIn is actually significantly younger. The biggest age group on LinkedIn is 25 to 34 years old, which makes me one of the older people.
Me too.
On LinkedIn. So
wow, that's a really interesting demographic.
Yeah, everyone assumes LinkedIn's old and fuddy-duddy, but it actually makes sense. 25 to 34 years old, they've come out of university, they've had a few jobs they hate, they get the job they love, they want career progression, they maybe got kids on the way, the first property, they need to earn some more money, so they're going to be on LinkedIn building their networks up.
Yeah, no, it's real. Everything that you just said there is absolutely true. I totally agree. No, that's really intriguing. And, you know, I think that we're in an evolution, aren't we, in terms of social media, and it's always changing. We could be recording this now in 2023, and in 2 years, something else comes up and you're just like, oh my God, this is incredible. So in terms of, well, speaking of which, I mean, obviously it's already here. It's here to stay, ChatGPT, AI. Where do you see that fitting into people's social media strategies?
You know what? It's not going to go away. That's the thing. Like, you can disregard it, you can be snobby about it. It's here, and you've got to work out how it can help you. That's the key thing. So I'm not using it to actually write stuff for me. I'm using it for inspiration. So I'm a blogger. I've written over 600 blogs. There does come those points where you're doing a listicle style blogs and you're doing 7 reasons, 10 reasons, and that kind of stuff. And you've got one less than you need, one less than you actually need. So you go into ChatGPT, type the subject in, and go, oh, I never thought of that. And that's my 7th or 10th idea. So I'm using it for stuff like that. But then just a couple of days ago, the GPT-4 has come out, and I've been reading loads of stuff over the past 24 hours. It's all that anyone's been reading about, like literally rewriting job adverts and stuff like that. People have been using it for, just to make them sound more interesting.
Wow.
And so from a recruitment perspective, it's still super early days. Like, I think in this AI and automation is probably where social media was in 2009. Think where it's going to be in 2 years' time, 3 years' time.
Agreed.
It's going to be so advanced, so many options. And it's ultimately going to make our life easy. It's not going to replace us. It's going to make our lives easier.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I've spoken to a number of people about it, and the word I would say is enabler. I think that's the key thing. It's not here to threaten you. And if you try and avoid it, it's like those who, I mean, I am of a generation where, you know, the internet and the World Wide Web was only a thing as I was already working. You know, I was born in the 70s. So, you know, anyone that thought, oh, what's this internet? You know, what's, you know, you're still probably in the library going through the encyclopedia trying to find something. And so I think it's not being afraid of it. It's definitely utilizing it. And I think what you've just said there in terms of how recruiters can use it and incorporate it, you know, it's not purely going to create every bit of content, but it'll give you all the ideas. It will give you maybe 60% of the ideas, and then you still add your own vibe to it and your own voice to it, writing job adverts, you know, writing content for LinkedIn, but still put your own personality in it. Otherwise we're going to be sat here in 5 years' time all sounding like robots and literally sounding the same.
I think that's the big issue. I think the nearest comparison point I'm sort of calling ChatGPT as, it's kind of like Canva was for graphic design. It enabled people who weren't experts to help them produce something, but it's still not a replacement for a human being. As you said, you still need to put your personality into it. It still needs to be you. And if you think about what we were talking about when we talked about LinkedIn, it's the super personal and the super interesting posts that actually get the interaction, the reach, the new connections, and so on. ChatGPT can't do that, however advanced it gets.
Yeah, so it's human, and it definitely is human interaction. So obviously we're recording this in 2023. Have you got any big plans for later in the year? Any events that you're doing or anything like that?
You know what? We do events all year round. We do, it's bizarre, it's a man running this, but we run a women's networking event called Alex and His Sisters.
Oh, wow.
It's really good. We had 100 people a few days ago attend, and the reason I ran it is we've got so many female clients. Like 70% of our training clients are women in business, and every time I was going to a networking event at like 8 in the morning, my clients weren't able to attend because they had to do the school run and so on. So I launched an event at like 9:30 in the morning till 11 o'clock. So it's only an hour and a half, but it's super well attended. So that's our main event. We run them every 2 months. In terms of other events, I'm always speaking either online or offline, literally at least once a month. So just check my website out, like ultimatehq.co.uk, or connect with me on LinkedIn as Alex McCann. And you'll see what I'm coming up, because you might be listening to this in 6 months' time, a year's time. So just check the
Absolutely. Check him out. Check out Mr. Bean videos on TikTok of a 14-year-old Alex, basically. Oh, it's been so lovely. And obviously off camera, we nearly met a few years ago at the Wonderful Workplace, which a very, very fun place in my heart. But it's been so lovely for you to join us today, Alex, on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having us. Cheers.